Welcome in to Locked On Knicks. Alex Wolf here, and man, it's tough to say this with a straight face. The Knicks win 142 to 118 over the Nets. Absolute NBA 2K numbers. 81-point first half. Jalen Brunson has 30 in the first half. Quentin Grimes is crushing it. Julius Randle largely has a great game. Just a totally fun game all around. I'm getting into it next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. I appreciate you making us a part of your daily routine. And if you're on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a video. Or if you're on your favorite podcast app, be sure to hit the auto download function so you never miss one either, because we are coming to you guys 5 days a week all season and typically all off season too. We do our damn thing here. 5 episodes a week. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, going solo today to break down this Knicks 142 to 118. Yes, that's right. 142 in regulation to 118 win over the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, it's like a total video game score, man. This felt like NBA 2K. Can you remember a time when last year it was a miracle if the Knicks would score like 95 some games? And now there's a game where they just scored 142 and 81 in the first half. I mean, 81 in an entire game could have been a game last year. And they did that in the first half this year in this game. Just absolute insanity. They had a 30-point lead at one point. They kept the Nets behind by about 20 the whole second half. And that was even without their best effort to start the third quarter. I thought they kind of let their foot off the gas a little too much to start the third quarter, particularly Julius Randle, who otherwise had a really great game. So it's just he was the main culprit that kind of stood out there. But I mean, they just kept the Nets at about a 20-point arm's length for most of the second half and wind up winning the whole thing by 24. Just an absolutely crazy game for the Knicks, and just such a fun time, man. It was just such a good one to watch. There's nothing quite like watching your team just absolutely shellac another good team. And it was sort of not unlike what they did to Boston the other day as well, except for against a clearly inferior opponent that did not have Jason Tatum, which made the Nets have a much worse day than even the Celtics did the other day. The Knicks, how'd they get there? They shot a ridiculous 20 of 35 from three. That is 57.1% from distance for those of you keeping score at home. They also shot 60.7% overall, which is just an insane number for a team to shoot over the course of an entire game. That's crazy. I think at one point, midway through the second quarter, they were shooting like 70 or 75% as a team or something too, which is even more crazy. I mean, they were just so good. And honestly, how surprising, quite frankly, that they were able to put up that crazy amount of scoring, considering the guys that the Nets just brought back. Like the whole thing, at least on the surface, was like, well, the Nets just, traded the farm. They got rid of Irving. They got rid of Durant, but they brought back all these like long defensive minded wings that, are like winning type players that you want that can defend a bunch of positions and all this other stuff. Like Mikal Bridges was literally a defensive player of the year candidate last year and was guarding Brunson and yet just got absolutely worked. It was kind of crazy. But the Knicks also out rebounded them 55 to 36, which has a lot to do with Mitchell Robinson just being a dominant force in nature there as usual. Just an awesome performance in that regard too. And honestly, when is the last time that we've seen a stretch like this dominant as the run that they're on right now? I feel like even 2 years ago, or even in 2012-13, maybe the very beginning of the 12-13 season, I'd have to go back and look at game logs and stuff, but I seem to remember that, they came out on fire and it didn't most of the wins felt pretty convincing, which is why everybody got so, like, high on that team so quickly. Uh, but, like, 2 years ago, it was a lot of, like, the Knicks winning on, like, the last few possessions and, like, closer games. They had the win streak late in the season of, 8 games, I think was the total late in the season a couple years ago, but, like, things were different then. This feels different, especially these last 3 games, the Pelicans and the Celtics and the Nets. This has just felt like a whole different breed as far as how dominant the Knicks are looking right now, and it is a really good time. Who really looked like he was having a good time tonight was Jalen Brunson, who I've already alluded to a little bit, so I should probably just talk about him in full. 30 points in just the first half. He ends the game with 39 points on 15 of 18 shooting, 5 of 6 from 3, and 4 of 4 from the line. Again, let me read that one more time. 15 of 18 shooting for the game, 5 of 6 from 3, and 4 of 4 from the free throw line, 6 assists and 5 rebounds. I mean, just an absolute, like, the number one thing that came to my mind with his performance in this game was he was a warrior in this game. I mean, he banged knees with Macau early. Um, I believe it was on a Macau drive, or maybe it was on a Brunson drive. I forget, but they got entangled a little bit down below the hoop, and it was Brunson. Brunson was the one that committed the foul, so he was on defense because then he banged his knee, didn't look great. He was kind of on the ground for a second, seemed a little shaken up, got up, and then was like clearly limping pretty bad. I would assume amateur doctor here, like maybe it's a bruise on his knee. I would assume, based off the fact that he was able to walk it off. But, got up, did like a bunch of laps in the backcourt while Macau was shooting his free throws. And then, I wound up watching the Nets broadcast for the first half of this one because I had it DVRing. I got home a little late from the gym. So I was like 15, 20 minutes behind the first half and then had to like catch up on commercials. And for whatever reason, my cable decided to record the Yes broadcast instead of the MSG one, whatever. So I was watching that and they were just like, "Oh, his gait is different," like, "Oh, he doesn't look too good. I don't know. Why aren't they taking him out of the game yet?" And then he proceeded to just like absolutely torch the Nets for the whole first half. And it didn't come out any earlier than he normally would have. He definitely looked like he was grimacing a bit and kind of looked like that for the whole rest of the game. And he mentioned afterwards that his knee still hurt, but I don't know. Maybe he's just got to have a banged knee to to break out of a little mini slump because he was sort of slumping. Since coming back from the All-Star break in the 3 games prior to this one, he had been averaging 16.7 points, but the shooting slashes were not great. 33.3% from the field, 21.4% from 3. So things were not going super great for him to start things off post All-Star break. This game, definitely the kind of game that can get you going again because it's pretty rare that you shoot 15 of 18 and 5 of 6 from 3 in any given game. And honestly, it felt like he almost could have done more, except for the Knicks sort of deferred to like Julius a bit more in the second half, and also like Quickley was getting a little more, and RJ and that sort of thing. So it it sort of all just like evened out where Brunson eventually just kind of started passing out of the double teams or whatever and letting other guys have their fun because he helped get the Knicks to like a 30-point lead in the first half, which is absolutely crazy. Uh, uh, he was also just kind of back to having that effortless quality to his game. And I hope that that continues because that's the most fun version of Jalen Brunson to watch. And it's not particularly close. But I want to get into a bunch of other guys like Quentin Grimes, who I mentioned, who had also had a fantastic shooting night. Not that you pretty much say that for almost everybody on the floor in this game, but Grimes shot 8 of 12, had 22 points. Julius Randle flirted with a triple double with 21, 8, and 8. Mitchell Robinson was fantastic. So there's still a lot to get into for this game. But I do have to real quick remind you all that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And the midway point of the NBA season is here. False. The 3/4 way mark is here. FanDuel. Get it right. We've been talking about this. We're in the fourth quarter of the season. But now's the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. There's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. And I'll tell you what, great bet you can make right now. And this comes from my buddy Adam, who is in the Strickland Discord and is also on Twitter. He brought up the other day that Immanuel Quickley was trending at like plus 8,000 odds for sixth man of the year. I placed a nice little $10 bet on that could potentially pay out $800 if it wins. But quickly, the odds are rapidly increasing because I think this sixth man of the year thing is actually gaining some steam, and Vegas has word of it. If that's the case, go get on it now. I think he's still at like plus 2,400 or something like that, which is still great odds. That'll pay you out $240 on a $10 bet. So definitely go check that out. But FanDuel also lets you combine bets for a chance at bigger payouts with same game parlays. That's one of my favorite things to do just on a game night. If you're not into like a long-term futures bet that you got to wait on, you can definitely go play a same game parlay on the night of a Knicks game. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/locked on. That's fanduel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, and I'm back to continue talking about this great Knicks win again. I'm gonna do the same thing I did after the Celtics game. I'm gonna say the final score every single time that I come back from a break. Just as a reminder, 142 in regulation to 118. The Knicks win this game. And they had 81 points in the first half. If you hadn't heard that yet, that's a fun fact. 81 points in the first half for the Knicks. Quentin Grimes, big part of that, had 22 points in this game on 8 of 12 shooting and 6 of 9 from 3. Very nice. It felt like to me, Grimes and Brunson both sort of had the type of games that they needed in this game. Grimes, it feels like lately, similar to Brunson, has just not been, I won't say him, not quite himself, because he's still doing, like, on defense, he's still doing his job. And, Grimes is great like that, where he doesn't have to be scoring to be effective. He's going to do other things on the court that are going to make it more than okay to keep him starting and keep him out there and everything else. But this game was like one of those super hot from three games that I feel like he's needed lately. He's been like having a lot of single digit scoring efforts. And like, I think Grimes probably as soon as like next year is going to really mature into like a solid, like 15-point per game player. And this game is more portends that player than the version that has not been scoring quite as much lately. It looks more like a defense first guy. And look, I'm not like I was doubting him or anything. I just kind of knew he needed one of these games to get back into it. And this is the game. And I hope that now we start, just like with Brunson, we start seeing the Grimes that we know and love a little more going down the stretch of the season. He really set the tone early for Brunson and for Julius and for pretty much anyone that felt like passing the ball too. He just was so automatic from three. It was a joy to watch. Grimes, when his jump shot is going as well as it can, is just, I mean, it's like butter. It's so good. It's so much fun to watch. So I was super happy watching him get tons of corner threes and sink like every single one of them. Brunson kicked out to him for a couple. Randall kicked out to him for a couple, which I'll talk about Randall's game in a minute. And the Grimes assists were some of the ones that I liked quite a bit. But then in general, I don't know. It was a great game for Grimes. He also had 14 as the second leading scorer in the first half, if you need further proof that he was like the secondary force behind Brunson. And I don't know, this was like, so other games, Grimes, I feel like shows a little more sometimes, will show a little bit more ball handling or transition work or something like that. This one was just, I felt like the perfect, like quintessential Quentin Grimes 3-and-D experience. which is sort of his floor in a way, but also like is a great like skill set for him to master at this stage in his career. Before then adding the other stuff in as he continues getting better and better. But like just mastering being a 3 and D guy right now, especially with how this team and how the offense is constructed, where he's like usually at best like the fourth or third option on the floor at any given moment. Like just working on like nailing those threes and playing defense, which I know he does, is the way to go. And this was sort of like for me at this stage for this team, basically a perfect Quentin Grimes game. Not to say that I would like turn it down if he did some crazy stuff and like had a great dish to Mitchell Robinson or something. Cool, that'd be great. But like this experience in this game was like, this is what I want to see out of Grimes right now. And this is what's going to like help the Knicks a ton as they make this playoff push, which by the way, this I've not gloated about yet. They're now 2 games ahead of the Nets, I believe, after this, 3.5 ahead of Miami, as far as keeping a guaranteed playoff spot because Miami's now sitting in the 7th spot. And they're only 1.5 games back from the Cleveland Cavaliers for the 4 seed. So we might have a little repeat of a couple years ago, and where the Knicks just kind of cruise their way on into a top 4 seed and home court advantage. But this time, I think with a much better team than 2 years ago. Speaking of 2 years ago, though, guy who was integral to that and has been integral to the Knicks during this run, Julius Randle, 21 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists in this game. And he shot 7 of 15 overall. But like I alluded to this earlier, and I don't want to like pile on because I thought the rest of his game was good, but was a little worrisome. He came out like really lethargic, or I don't know what word I would use, like lackadaisical in the third quarter. And like I'm not gonna say that like it almost tanked the game for the Knicks or anything, but it did allow the Nets to get within like 18, which qualified as being close in this game at one point. And, it was getting Mike Breen. I did switch over to the MSG broadcast for the second half, thankfully, once I got caught up to live. Got Mike Breen a little worried. He was like, oh, there's, the Nets are coming back. Like they were down by 30. Now they're only down by like 18 or 17 or whatever, like the highest point that they managed to get to in the fake comeback. And ultimately the Knicks put that away and, just we're like, shoo, go away, Nets. But there was a little bit where Julius was like not looking fantastic early in that second half. But otherwise, I thought he looked great. He actually didn't have a big scoring first half, and I wonder if he was maybe trying to overcompensate a little bit to start the second half. But I loved his first half. I thought it was really good. He only had 6 points, but he had 5 assists in the first half, and they were I won't say all super different, but they were all super effective. He hit RJ for a corner 3. He hit Mitch for a huge dunk inside. That was the one I mentioned, or the one I'm going to mention in a minute. That it was just an awesome Mitch dunk. I don't know why it brought me so much joy. Just like a big two-handed flush, but then hit Grimes for 2 triples and Immanuel Quickley for a triple. And the 2 Grimes ones especially like really caught my eye. I thought that he just did a great job of baiting the defense and taking what was given to him. And like the Nets they weren't throwing hard doubles at him or anything, but they had guys looking over their shoulder and being aware of Julius Randle a lot. And that's sort of like the stuff you have to look out for if you're a really good scorer. Like, okay, am I getting more attention? Even if they're not saying these guys to swarm me, is it enough that I could take advantage of it? And he perfectly took advantage of it on the 2 Grimes ones. Like he was kind of just like coming into the lane and kind of doing his new move that he loves to do, where he kind of like comes in and then just kind of goes like parallel to the hoop instead of perpendicular. So instead of driving straight in, he kind of just starts driving like sideways and drew the defenders in, including Grimes' defender, towards him just a smidge, and then just whipped this like awesome little bullet pass to him for a made 3. Second one went largely the same way, but I like Julius a lot when he's doing that sort of stuff and seeing the floor as well as that, which also included that awesome Mitch dunk. And I want to talk about Mitchell Robinson along with Josh Hart and Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett real quick. Once I get back from my second break, but I'm going to take that break now and then be back in just a sec. All right, and back to continue talking about this game, which can't forget Gotta gloat. Final score, in case you missed it, 142 to 118 in regulation. And the Knicks scored 81 points in the first half and led by 30. And Jalen Brunson scored 30 in the first half by himself. Honestly, if I told you that like Jalen Brunson outscored the entire Nets team for one quarter, would you even like be surprised? I wouldn't. It was just that sort of game where everything went right for the Knicks. That did not happen though, by the way. Don't need to start any fake rumors considering there's plenty of great stuff to talk about without having to fabricate anything in this game. So next guy I want to talk about is Mitchell Robinson, who is, as I put in my notes, a freaking beast. 13 points, 6 of 6 shooting, 10 rebounds, a steal and a block in this game. And apparently, according to MSG on the broadcast, this is the first time in Mitch's career that he's had 4 straight double doubles in his career, which I thought was really surprising. But I'm not gonna question it. I I guess it's not totally surprising. Like it does seem like Mitch often comes in with like 12 points, 9 boards, or like 8 points, 13 boards, or whatever. Because a lot of what makes him good in a rebounding sense is that he does a lot of boxing out too. So there's going to be some games where he doesn't get the 10 rebounds, but just prevents the other team's guy from getting 10 rebounds. And just lets like Julius Randle or now like Josh Hart or whoever take the rebound and get on the run with it. But yeah, a great feat for Mitch, especially considering it's his first 4 games back from injury. And I thought he did a really good job against Nick Claxton, who had a pretty tough game himself. They did note on the when I was unfortunately forced to watch the Nets broadcast for the first half. Um, they did note that Nick Claxton is currently, I think, sitting at if the season ended today, he would be second all time in field goal percentage for a single season, behind, of course, the guy I'm talking about right now, Mitchell Robinson. And so with that in mind, Claxton only shot like I think 3 of 7 in this game. I didn't write it down, but pretty sure that was the number. And Mitch owned the boards, he owned the interior, he owned the matchup. I thought, which is impressive because again, this Nets team in theory is built up of a bunch of like young role player dudes that are or youngish. Some of them are a little older, like Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges aren't exactly super young, but um, youngish dudes that play defense that can like, shoot and whatever. And in the case of Nick Claxton, that can defend, that can rebound, that can, make shots inside. And Mitch just completely owned the matchup and himself went 6 of 6 shooting. So, clearly was not too bothered in his own right there. And I mentioned this dunk. I'll bring it up again. I don't know what was so satisfying about the dunk he got off a Randall assist, but like Randall hit him on the inside at one point for a nice wide open dunk, and Mitch just threw down like the most vicious two-handed dunk. I think what it was is it's sort of like every time he throws down a dunk like that, that's like super duper powerful. It makes me think of when Trey Burke, there's a name you haven't heard in a minute, when Trey Burke in Mitch's rookie year, in like training camp, I think, or maybe like partway through the year, was calling him Baby Shaq, saying that he's, like plays like Baby Shaq out there with how he, dunks the ball and everything. Now that Mitch actually is like full on large and NBA sized and like dominating the glass and stuff, definitely makes me think when he does those like particularly emphatic like two-handers and whatever, it does make me think a smidge of Shaq. Obviously, Shaq had a lot more in his bag than Mitch does on the offensive end, but just on those pure power dunks with 2 hands makes me think of him a lot. So definitely loved that. And I gotta give props to Mitch too. He's playing as well as he has this whole season in these 4 games since he got back. Like, big props to Mitch, dude. Like, for a guy that had his issues like last year, for example, with having a less than ideal training regimen leading into the season that brought him in like kind of out of shape and like too bulky. Like he just didn't prioritize the right things over the summer and stuff like that. And, it sort of set him back a little bit. There would have been an easy opportunity where, this injury that he was just coming back from, missing 14 games, could have set him on that same path of like, okay, well, maybe he doesn't train right or whatever, and comes back and has to spend like 6 games just getting back into game shape, and that might be a little detrimental to the Knicks, who were kind of being like a well-oiled machine before that. It might sort of disrupt like the chemistry that they had going on and all that. But Mitch, and none of that's a factor. Like he clearly put in the work while he was hurt and stayed in every bit as good a shape as he was. He almost looks like he's a little bigger. Like he was kind of like he described it. I think there was a quote to Rebecca Harlow on the broadcaster that she had gotten from Mitch like prior to the game or whatever, that um, he basically said that he approached this absence that he just had like almost like training camp 2.0, where he got to just get back in the weight room and whatever, and could also like you know run and do all that stuff and stay in just as good a shape as he wanted, and also just like heal up and get ready to go. And he's looked great. Kudos to Mitch, man. He looks fantastic. But I want to talk a little bit about three other guys: Josh Hart, Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett. Josh Hart first. These will be somewhat quick because we can wrap up. I feel like these games are almost getting like tough to talk for too long about, because like the Knicks are just thoroughly destroying these teams. And it's like, well, once again, the Knicks played good defense. And once again, they scored a bunch of points. And once again, like Josh Hart hustled his butt off, which he did, which I'll talk about now. He only had 4 points. So, there's like two sides to the Josh Hart experience. Either he goes for like 20 and hits like a million things, or he goes for like single digits, which is fine. I think that's totally cool, because no matter what, he's affecting the game. And he definitely kind of does what's asked of him within the flow of the game, which is always a fantastic trait to have. But despite only having 4 points, I thought he really hustled his butt off like usual. He also had 5 assists and had a lot of pace pushing in that. It's the number one thing I've been loving since Hart joined the Knicks, is that he's just like pushing pace, pushing pace, pushing pace. And that works so well for like RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, and obviously Obi Toppin, um, to have a guy like that comes like pre-programmed thinking that way, like that he should be pushing the pace, when Tibbs a lot of times kind of goes anti that. And if guys want to push too much, it's almost like, no, like just go set up the half court. Or at least you imagine that has to be what the conversations are, because then they just start doing it. Even after they like push the pace more earlier this year, they'd largely gone back to like half court sets again. So I love that out of Hart. Um, Also, he's building a bit of a rapport with Hartenstein. I think there was like 2 dunks that Hartenstein got off of Josh Hart assists. There was definitely one. It was very much like, it reminded me of like how Quentin Grimes sometimes feeds either Mitch or Hartenstein, where it's just sort of like a nice like wraparound pass that found him. Um, but yeah, maybe we gotta start thinking of a nickname for Hart and Hartenstein together. Um, just like we still need one for Hart and Quickly too. Although I saw someone in the YouTube comments said maybe Hart and Quickly should be HQ, which could stand for headquarters, but reminds me, I just listened to this like podcast about HQ trivia from like back in like 2018 or whenever that was, 2017, 2018. And I don't know, it kind of reminds me of that, which is kind of funny. So maybe HQ, maybe that could work. I kind of like that. Or high quality. HQ could be high quality. That's another abbreviation. So kind of dig that. So Hart and Hartenstein, we got to figure out what's up with that. I think old host of Locked On Knicks, James Marcita, at one point had said Hart and Stein, which is kind of interesting. Can make for some interesting graphics of like a heart and a beer stein together. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyway, one last note on Josh Hart. He was a team high plus 30, which you love to see it. So then Emmanuel Quickley, he had a nice little 15-point game off the bench, 6-12 shooting, 2 of 4 from 3. Again, pretty hard pressed to find anyone who had a bad shooting night in this game. 50% and 50% across the board for Quickley in this one. I don't know what else to really say about Quickley at this particular moment in time, other than like, let's get that 6 man of the year campaign going, dude. Like, the guy deserves it. Honestly, at this point, the impact that he's providing every time he steps on the floor is crazy. Um, he's making a transition from an all-star caliber player in Brunson to the bench seamless at the point guard position, which is all you can ask of a great six man. And on top of that, he's playing great basketball with Brunson and with Julius Randle or with Obi Toppin or with whoever. He's like the skeleton key of the Knicks, where, well, Hart sort of is too. But those two just, they play well with everybody. They're just like, because they just like hustle and pass the ball and play defense and make shots. And it's like, what more could you ask for? That's pretty great to me. Um, so yeah, it was. I I just thought it was another good game for Quickly. I don't know, not too much to report there, but fire up the Six Man of the Year award. Hype train here. And lastly, I'll just talk about RJ Barrett. Some people might look at the box score and be like, I mean, granted, I just praised Immanuel Quickley for having 15 points. RJ Barrett also had 15 points in this game. So talk about double standard. Like, some people might look at the box score though and be like, ugh, RJ only had 15 points. What happened? But I didn't think he had a bad game at all. His shot selection and his process were good. I thought he shot 5 of 11. He hit 2 of 2 from 3. And ended with 15 points. I mean, I don't know. I thought the shot selection was good. I thought that this was like sort of a good RJ game in the sense that he read the room and like just let Brunson cook when everybody else was also letting Brunson cook. I think sometimes RJ has a tendency to, like, even if like Julius or someone is kind of cooking, he'll go in and like try one of his like floaters inside or something. And I understand you have to have a variety of guys shooting the ball, but it's like sometimes you just gotta like read it and be like, no, I think this guy's going off right now. So why don't I try to at least like set something up for him instead of me just shooting it? But I didn't think there was any of that. It's just he just played well off the fact that Brunson was going crazy and Randall was still kind of Randall and all that. And Grimes was like the de facto like spot up shooting guy for the most part in this game too. So I'll take it. I mean, it was RJ was a plus in this game. Period. That's it. I mean, pretty much everybody was plus. Actually, I don't know. And now I haven't pulled up my box score in a minute, but was anyone a minus in this game? No, not a single one. Obi Toppin was the closest to just a +2 in this game, but everybody was a plus. But RJ himself, I thought was good. I thought he had a good game. So anyway, I think that's all I got to say about this one. So thank you all for listening. Thanks for gloating with me. One more time, in case you missed it somehow, the Knicks scored 142 points in regulation and 81 points in the first half against the Brooklyn Nets. They led them by 30 at one point. Coincidentally, that's also the same amount of points that Jalen Brunson had in the first half. Thank you all for listening. We'll have some more episodes coming this week, including another game recap on Friday night for Saturday. So till then, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.